terrible example of duvetine. If you'll notice, often called commando cloth. It's made out of cotton. It comes in a variety of weights. It comes in a variety of colors. It is brushed. It has nap. It does not have pile. Talk about nap and pile in just a minute. It comes in NFR versus flame, non-flame guard and burn guards, and there are other alternatives to it. This commando cloth, there are a lot of good IFR options out there. But it's just cotton. If you look at it very carefully, you can see that it has a nap to it. So the way this works is that when they weave it, this is the back side of it, it looks like this on both sides. And then they run it through a process where they brush it. And basically it just makes this side fuzzy. Okay? And why do we make it fuzzy? Why do we brush it? No. To make it look, to give it more depth. Make it absorb light better. The lights here, the light's kind of reflecting off of the weave of the fabric. Here you don't see the weave of the fabric and you see less reflection.
Do you see that? Can you hold it in exactly the same way so they can see the...
Take a good look at it.
Because the sides of the fabric actually look very different.
That it's changing. You can see where I'm brushing. This is kind of an old tired piece of fabric. If it was new, it would react slightly different.
But turn it over.
So there's that, okay? And
It's
then
very
I'm gonna turn
clear.
it over. You notice it looks a lot flatter. I don't know if you can see it, me leaving streaks in it or not. But whenever I do that, you can actually affect it. One of my favorite stories about duvetine was I was working at Cincinnati Playhouse Park. We had built a show that had this portal. It was in the Shelter House Theater. There was this portal, had a flat over here, had two big flaps that went across the top, had a flat that went down the side. And so we're building, kind of framed the stage, so to speak. And it was one of the first pieces of scenery the guys built. So they built the scenery, they covered it with duvetine, it was covered with black duvetine. And they built flat, wrapped it with duvetine, carried it out and set it in the loading dock. It sat there for 2 weeks. What happens when you leave anything sitting around the scene shop for 2 weeks? It gets covered in dust, right? So, came to loading day, the guys back the truck up, they go to get the flats for the truck and they go, oh, covered in dust. So Joe goes over and gets the air hose, right? Now, back up for half a second, because Joe Hoffman should have been a comedian. He was the funny guy, right? So he was always doing stuff. He was hilarious to be around. So Joe comes over, and they had nicknamed this show Project Golden Turd, because they were polishing a turd into gold. That's what they kept. That was just the running mantra around the shop. So Joe comes over with the air hose, and he goes in big cursive letters, "Golden Turd," in the sawdust on the thing. And everybody went, "Hi, Joe, he's a funny guy." Huh? And they blow all the sawdust off there, so they put it in the truck, and they take it down to the theater and they load it in. Okay? Fast forward to tech rehearsals. Get it all loaded in, everything. Everybody gets sitting around where you're ready to start tech. Turn the lights off, bring the lights up. Golden. You can totally see where he had blown into the fabric golden turd. You couldn't see it just looking at it, but when the light was hitting it at just the right angle, you could totally see it. So I picked up the phone, I called the shop, I said, "Hey guys, bring the truck." And they came, and they took the flat down, they carried it back to the shop, they took the duvetine off, they put new duvetine on, they came back, they loaded it in, and everything was done. You can affect the nap by blowing pressurized air against it. You can actually permanently affect, not a lot, but you can affect it some. So, anyway. Fabric for it's fairly affordable, and it doesn't. The other thing about this, if you go to the fabric store, if you're working for a sorority or a fraternity or some other underfunded operation that wants to have a public performance and needs some black curtains for your underfunded, and you go to the fabric store, what are you going to find? Looking for black fabric, you're not going to find this. They don't sell it at fabric stores. You have to buy this from a tactical supplier. The problem with the black fabric you're going to find at fabric stores is it's not heavy enough. It's not nearly this heavy. And so light's going to come through it. It's going to be a little bit transparent. You're going to be able to see things through it, stuff like that. It makes terrible theater curtains. So this is what you want. Problem is people don't use this in real life. You only get this from a theatrical supplier. So, like to pull it, go to the theatrical supplier, or you can probably buy it from Amazon nowadays. I haven't tried to do that. But anyway, it's a good fabric. Velour. Look, I found a piece of velour this morning.
Ooh.
Whoa, look at this. Yeah.
Did you pass the Duve around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before I do that, I want to hold these two things up. Do you see the difference? Okay. This is velour. This is strap. You can barely smell the flame retardant. Wow. You can barely smell flame retardant in this. This was a flame retardant curtain at one time, but it's not anymore. But you can see how much more luxurious this is. So there's the front. There's the back. Notice the back of the velour looks very similar to the back of the Duvetine. The big difference in these two fabrics is that when this was woven, there's a whole bunch of little loops that stick out. When they weave it, it's basically it's a similar weave, but instead of it just being woven flat like that, there's little loops that stick out when they weave it, and then they clip all those loops, and so it's just fingers of threads pointing at you, and that's how it gets its beautiful, luxurious thing. Is because all these fingers are pointing at you, so when the light hits it, a lot of the light is absorbed. It bounces off between those things instead of being reflected back at you. That's the other thing. That's why you also never put tape. If you're ever in a theater and you tear the curtain, don't ever go get some tape and put it on the back of the curtain to hold the hole shut. Because what happens when you pull the tape off? It pulls all the little threads out, and then there's a bald spot on the front. Don't do that. Have it sewn back together. It'll look terrible, but it will look better than if you put the tape on. Pull the tape off.
Or if you do put tape on it, don't pull the tape off.
Right. If you ever walk in the theater and there's tape on the backside of the curtain,
Do not
leave it
pull
there.
it.
Walk away. Don't touch it, because pulling it off is way worse than leaving it on. This doesn't have nap to it like that does. This has pile. And pile, when we talk about pile, we're talking about how long those fingers are. How many of you heard the word, have you ever heard of, talking about carpet, heard about pile? The pile of the carpet. It's the same term. We're talking about how the carpet is made in a very similar way, in that there's the way it's woven, and whatever's sticking up, it makes the pile of the carpet. Okay? Got lost. I don't remember what I was talking about. So anyway, it has pile, and the longer it depends on how it's woven, etc., etc., etc. How long the things are that stick out on the front, and so on and so forth. I think that's everything I need to say about blue. Thoughts, questions? I'll pass this around. You can see how different it is. Okay. More expensive. Go ahead.
In terms of theatrical history,
Yes.
original curtains velvet, right?
Yes. Yes.
You want to talk about, I don't know that I know the difference between velvet and velour, other than velvet is much more expensive.
It's much more expensive. I don't really know either. I should know that, but I don't.
But I do think velour was sort of developed to be.
Correct. Velour was developed to be a less expensive alternative to velvet. Yeah, what is the difference between velvet and velour?
Is it the process?
What's that?
The process of making it?
I don't know.
It might be the inherent material.
I
Is
don't
velvet
think-
silk?
That's what I think.
I think velvet is made out of silk and velour is made out of cotton. I think that's what my brain, I need a source for that I don't have. So I'll look it up and come back to you all.
Okay, yeah.
Because I can't cite my source at this moment.
Okay. Scrim. Can be many different colors. Is woven. And fibers alternate. Yes. Scrim is, this is scrim. I found a piece of it. Whoa, look how cool that is. Why do we use scrim in the theater? What's that? Togas? No, we do not make scrim togas out of it. Go.
It's for the actual scrim in the background. It's good for like lighting and stuff. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
How many of you have witnessed the Butler County Regional Transit Authority buses driving around Oxford? How many of you have witnessed those in the daytime versus the nighttime? What can you see?
I
In the
forget.
daytime, what do you see on the outside of the bus?
Let's see. A giant blue bee.
The advertisement,
Advertisement.
the graphic design, etc., etc., etc. If you see that same bus at night, what do you see?
Inside the
You
bus.
see the people inside the bus. Why is that?
Is it the lights?
On the outside of the bus, what they've done is they've put basically scrim on it that they've printed their advertising logo on the paper and they've punched the plastic and they've punched a million little holes in it, right? So when you're sitting in the bus, you can see out the window because you're looking through all these little tiny pinholes. But when you're outside the bus during the day, there's a shadow inside the bus, and so that it's darker inside the bus than it is outside the bus. And so when you look at the bus, you see the signage, the advertisement, whatever it is, on the outside of the bus. At night when it's dark, all you can see is this big dark silhouette, but there's lights on inside the bus, lighting the occupants of the bus. So you see through the pinholes and see what's going on inside the bus. That's exactly how theater scrim works. If we put theater scrim up and we light the thing that's in front of it, we can see the things in front of it, and a lot of the light reflects off of the screen material. Okay? If we turn those lights off and turn the lights on upstage, then we can see the thing that's upstage through the scrim. I don't know if that translated very well. That's my explanation. Comments, thoughts, questions, concerns. We also do this, and we often put a black scrim in front of our cyclorama. Does everybody know what a cyclorama is?
You should go back to that first thing. Because I think it shows them in that, doesn't it? In the cutaway from Rosebrand?
Oh, it does. Yes. Here. Muslin or cyclorama. It's a big white thing all the way upstage. When you go in the theater, you sit down in the chair, and there's a big white wall behind you that's lit up with all these cool colors. That's what it is. It's a big white muslin drop that we've shown a bunch of light on, and the light's reflecting off of it, and it looks like a color or something. Sometimes, so there's this big, huge white thing all the way upstage. Sometimes we need that to disappear as best you can. And so, if we put a black scrim in front of it, we can turn all those lights off, and so we mostly see just the black scrim and not the big white glowing thing that's all the way upstage. Does that make any sense at all?
The other thing the black scrim does is that it keeps the light downstage from impacting the color that you've put onto the cyc. So the scrim in front of the cyc is going to absorb the bounce from your front light or your side light or whatever else you have going on downstage, and it's going to like protect the integrity of what you're doing in color on your cyc. That's a big part of why the scrim goes back there.
When you come to see
Peter, when we see Peter.
Peter in the Starcatcher, you'll see exactly this in action.
Uh-huh.
Where were we?
Scrim.
Scrim.
Okay, I have to do my lighting designer
Go.
caveat. The tricky thing about, so theatrical producers and scenic designers, this is where I get a little on my lighting design high horse, I apologize, think that scrim is magic,
Yes.
okay?
They do.
And they think that because we put scrim on something, that means that we will only see behind it when we want to.
Right.
And then, do you know what directors do? They block people directly in front of that scrim.
Look, here's the scrim.
I'm going to stand right there because the only time we're going to see behind it is when we want to. Well, how do I have to light Curtis there in order for the audience to see him? Well, I have to put light that hits the scrim. And what did we just learn? Light goes through the scrim, right? It does that. It does that on purpose. And if it hits something behind the scrim, what happens? Whoops. We see it. My goodness. So, scrim reveals work beautifully when everyone is on the same page about how the scrim reveal works, right? If I have to light the front of that scrim and there's anything behind it, we are gonna see it. So if we're supposed to reveal something, and then it needs to probably move in and out from that place, right? And then absolutely I can reveal it. But if I have to light the front of that scrim prior, we're not gonna get that same kind of reveal because it's not magic. It's not opaque.
Right.
It is actually transparent, translucent for sure, right?
You
So,
can still see me. I didn't disappear.
and we can see Curtis because Curtis is lit, right? If Curtis was in complete darkness back there, we would not be able to see Curtis.
Right.
I will try to show you this in a theater at some point when we go over. I'll try to set up a demo for you so that you can understand. But scrim is not magic. It's physics.
Yes.
And
Yes.
physics follow rules. And I can't bend light. That's not does that make sense, y'all? Lighting designers aren't magic. Okay, that was, nope. I will just pull that Band-Aid off right now. I wish terribly that I was magic, but I'm not. And so therefore,